Hello, and welcome to Test Talks. I'm Amos, head of brand and product marketing. With me is Benj, our director of product management. Everyone's genuinely excited about agentic workflows in testing right now. Self-healing scripts, auto-generated tests, maybe even hands-off QA. And yet, those same AI models can hallucinate, drift, or quietly break a business process. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I'm sure many folks in QA and testing are asking themselves many of the same questions. So, today we're going to be talking about both sides of this equation, using AI to do QA and doing QA on the AI itself. Benj, take it from here, please.
Hey Amos, thanks for having me today. So, right now the reality is, how do we make AI reliable? Everyone is excited, but we need to turn that excitement into something governable. This is true for the tools we build for testers at Panaya, but also for our customers who are rolling out their own copilot or assistants and need to make sure they actually work. So yes, this is going to be fun for sure.
Awesome. I'd like to start with where do we see AI, Gen AI, agentic workflows showing up today in QA?
Yeah. So if you look at real projects, we see AI appearing, I would say, in three specific ways. First, text to test. Instead of scripting a test step by step, you start from a business sentence like create sales order, and the AI turns the intent into an executable test. Basically, it connects business language and automation. Second aspect, I would say self-healing. This is critical. That means your automated tests can fix themselves automatically. If a screen changes in SAP or Salesforce, tests usually break. Here they don't. The AI analyzes the application structure, like the HTML, the DOM, and visual element of the page, and the intent of the action. And it automatically adjusts the locator, this technical property that allows us to reach the element, and keeps the test running. This is for self-healing. Third, AI assistant, I would say. Basically, they help you make sense of the noise. It can look at 70 failed tests and tell you, hey, these all failed because one of tax rule changes in Brazil, for instance. Okay. So in practice, this means faster test creation, more stable automation, and much better feedback.
Okay, let's ground this a little bit. When people hear AI in testing, some imagine sort of like a magic button that tests everything. What does it actually look like in the real world?
Yeah, so let's be clear. There is no magic button, Amos. Sorry. Humans still own the strategy, but they are not starting from scratch anymore. In the real world, it looks like this. I would say you use natural language to say, okay, give me the regression suite for these SAP updates. That already works today. Or, an agent that suggests a fix for a broken script. You, as the human, you need to review it, and approve it instead of spending hours debugging your automated script. So it's not about replacing the testers, it's about accelerating them.
So, human in the loop, right? With Gen AI already kind of embedded in how we do testing today, QA leaders are now being asked, two different questions. How will you use AI to speed up testing and every activity that you're doing? And how will you test the AI that you're rolling out to customers and employees? And I pictured something like, this AI thing is now my quality problem.
Exactly. So that's a very good comment. What I can say is that in the past, being slow was annoying, but at least you were safe. You're right?
Yeah.
You're okay? With AI today, I think that being slow doesn't really save you, because models can drift, answers can change, and suddenly your chatbot or your assistant is proposing, refunds that it should not propose to a customer. So yes, for 2026, I believe we have two missions. One is use AI to move faster, and two is build a safety net around the AI components. Because honestly, many teams are still learning how to do this safely in production. You definitely need someone to define the rules, the guardrails, okay, and not just press run.
So let me play the skeptical QA manager for a second. An AI agent decides to self-heal 50 failed tests after a UI change. How do I know it didn't just sweep kind of things under the carpet, bugs under the carpet?
Mm-hmm. That's the right level of paranoia, Amos. In our platform, the agent never rewrites reality secretly. It's fully transparent. It logs, I changed X to Y because the button moved. You can compare screenshots, you can review the logs, and if it's a critical flaw, you can also lock it. Okay, so the AI cannot touch it without your permission. So think of self-healing as a policy, not just a switch. If a tool doesn't give you that control, my strong belief is that do not use it for critical business flows.
I think that's good advice. So if AI injected tests introduce all these new risks versus that slow and safe approach, we need a new discipline for testing the AI itself.
Correct. That's a critical topic. Again, if an agent touches a business data, we need to test 3 layers. First, the input. Okay, when I say the input, I mean the prompt and the data you feed it. Second is the brain, the model logic, the temperature of the model, and the tool it can use. And third is the output, which is the final answer or the action it takes in your system. So we must really treat this like any other software. It must be observable, it must be testable, and we cannot treat the model like a black box.
So kind of we've been touching on, let's say, did the AI do the right thing from a functional point of view?
Mm-hmm.
What about the non-functional side of quality, latency, cost, safety, any other things that
great point.
Are relevant?
Great point. With AI, I would say non-functional is where the real risk hides. Simply think about cost and speed. You can have a correct answer, but if it takes 20 seconds and costs $5 per run, it's useless for a global team. That's one thing. Then there is, the aspect of safety. You have to be strict about data, PII, financial information, health records, and so on. So if your prompt leaks that, you don't have a bug, you have basically a compliance incident. So QA for AI
Ouch.
is not just, is it right? It's also, is it safe, fast, and fair?
So, okay, give me the horror story. What happens when we skip QA on the inputs?
So basically, if you skip QA on inputs, you get a system that looks smart, but fails in reality. For example, an agent might be great at simple, let's say, single country workflows. But because you didn't test the inputs, it fails every time you try a complex multi-country scenario, for instance. Or even worse, it learns bad habits from old data. You end up with an intelligent system that is in fact optimizing for the wrong things.
So when I look at traditional QA, I'm expecting, or they're expecting, deterministic behavior. Same input, same output.
Mm-hmm.
LLMs are kind of the opposite. How do we not lose our minds?
Right. So just as enterprise applications evolved, from, the old enterprise applications from the 80s, they evolved from rigid deterministic systems to flexible low-code platforms. And now even more with agentic experience like SAP Joule, Salesforce, Agentforce. I believe that our testing approach has to evolve too. We must also change the testing approach for sure. You cannot validate probabilistic systems with purely deterministic methods.
New tools.
Yeah. That said, evolving doesn't mean losing control. You have to give up on a bit-for-bit sameness, okay? But you do not give up on control. You move from, exact matching to well-defined acceptability ranges and semantic checks. So, for example, if I take an example of our test agent that generates steps for, create a return order, I don't really care if it uses slightly different wording. We care that it hits the right transactions, fields, conditions, and validation. We care that it follows our policies for data, security, segregation of duties. So tests become more semantic, meaning did the flow achieve the correct business outcome and respect constraints, rather than, did it print the exact same thing? And that also means you need evaluation datasets and automated checks that look at behavior, not just text similarity, I would say.
Behavior.
Yeah.
That's a key word here. If a CIO asks you, how do I know this AI won't go rogue in production? What's your practical answer to that?
So basically, you design it to be wrong safely.
like
If our
that.
agent is not sure about a fix, it doesn't just guess. It stops, flags it, and asks for human approval. You also limit the blast radius. You control what the agent is allowed to touch. I would say the worst case scenario should be, the AI asks a human for help, and not the AI change the code and we lost revenue. So again, designing well your agent is the key to quality, in my opinion.
I like that the worst case scenario is we ask too many people for too many answers instead of doing something wrong. That's right. Let's talk about the near future. What is this doing to QA roles, let's say for the next year, because it's hard to look further than that. Let's be blunt. Some testers hear agentic workflows, agentic AI, and think, okay, I'm done soon. Are they wrong?
Yeah, that's an important topic, and I would say they are right if they stay static and keep defining themselves as the person who clicks through the same script every sprint. In this case, yes, AI will probably eat a big part of that work. But, I'm sure professional testers don't define themselves like this. So the teams leaning into AI are very busy today. I can tell you, they are doing higher value work. They are defining evaluation for agents. They are defining quality policies, designing scenario that no generic model could imagine. And by the way, you know what? This topic actually reminds me of that endless debate we used to have about manual versus automated testing. We spent years arguing about this topic, that there is no manual versus automated, there is just testing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
With some automated checks when possible. But it was all about the discipline of testing. And I think that now it's a good thing that with AI agent, testing comes back to what it really is, human judgment. You don't test fixed output anymore. You test behavior, decision, and trust. So again, repetitive clicking is what probably gets automated, like yesterday. The judgment, domain knowledge, and the ability to challenge AI gets more important.
Okay, that's interesting, I think, for all QA managers. But let's say if a friend of yours, a QA manager or tester or engineer, would ask you what I can actually do next week to put myself in this, in this path to what's coming.
Yeah.
What would you tell?
I would probably advise, start small. Pick one AI use case, like self-healing on a non-critical flow. Assess it to understand if it actually saves your time. In parallel, I would recommend, picking one QA for AI practice, like, defining a basic checklist for your next chatbot or copilot feature, meaning which inputs do we constrain, what behavior do we never allow, what output do we log and review, and what do we retest after a model or prompt change. And I believe that starting doing those two things, and I think you will quickly build intuition about where AI helps, where it's risky, and what you want to scale.
That's awesome, because you actually gave one AI-driven QA step and one QA for AI step. So it really ties everything together. I think, again, if you guys are listening to this, I think my takeaways, and Ben, you can talk about that, but first I think is how AI accelerates testing, but how you need to make sure that AI doesn't quietly break your business. So essentially, you don't need a moonshot to start. You need a couple of well-chosen experiments, I would say some clear guardrails, and the courage to treat AI like something that you test and you govern, not something that you just purchase.
Exactly. If it touches a critical process, it deserves a test strategy, whether it's a person, a piece of code, or an agent.
This is an awesome note to end on. So we'll wrap it up. Benj, thank you so much for being here. I enjoy these discussions so much.
Thanks, Amos. It was a pleasure. Always happy to discuss this stuff with you.
If you're curious on how we're doing this inside of Panaya with our agentic layer Seymour, feel free to reach out. We're happy to walk you through some real life examples. You can reach us at panaya.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn for more interesting information. And thank you for listening. We'll catch up on the next episode of Test Talks.